Greetings, everyone, and welcome to our webinar with the catchy title, Lean and Green, how Würth makes the global supply chain more sustainable. What is great about working in this context for me is that there are really no trade secrets, and the more we share and learn from each other, the more the likelihood of us actually achieving lasting change together, be it with customers, suppliers, or competitors. Everybody's on the same planet, so we all need to win together. And that is why today I'm proud to introduce a team of very passionate colleagues to share their knowledge with you. Our goal today is to inspire some ideas and get a conversation going after we finish the slides. So please feel free to post any questions you might have, any comments, compliments to the team, or raise a virtual hand and we'll have a Q&A session for you going on afterwards. In the interest of time, I'll do a quick round of intros on our presenters and their topics today, after which we will go ahead and dive right in. Up first, we are lucky to be joined by Carina Lebsack, a true sustainability advocate and the head of corporate sustainability circular economy at beautiful Künzelsau at our headquarters at AWKG. Carina will get us started with a quick intro to Würth and the sustainability strategy that has gotten Würth recognized as a thought leader under the Vision 2045 campaign in the wake of the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow last year. Next up, we have Rabea Klöpperpieper, a sustainability manager at Würth, who is working tirelessly with people such as Carter and myself to implement this strategy and work with operating companies to connect ideas and people and to bring projects to life. And she will zoom in on our strategy pillars and with a focus on material life cycles. The next speaker, you will have you will have to endure me as the next speaker. I'm Achim Grenner with Würth Additive Group, and I'm also responsible for coordinating sustainability and circular economy at Würth Industry of North America. I'm going to be covering Würth's role in keeping our customers' C parts management lean and green, and how that as an organization, we work with the team of Rabea and Carina to implement change on the topic of sustainability and circular economy. Part of that overall journey is leveraging new technology to achieve our climate goals, one of which is additive manufacturing or 3D printing. So we also thought to bring along Rhodes, who is our sales engineer out in Denver, Colorado in the US, to share with us his thoughts on the impact of distributed manufacturing, 3D printing, on the carbon footprint of parts. Our intention for today is to get done with the slides around half time. We took a couple more minutes, so we'll dive straight into the presentation here. Please do post your questions in the chat and we will pick them up as we go along. And with that, Carina, I think I will hand over to you. You can unmute your microphone and we'll start with your slides.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm sorry that my cam is not working yet, but hopefully it will start in a few minutes. Thank you, Achim, for the short introduction, and hello, everyone, and also a warm welcome from my side to this webinar. I'm very happy to share some insights about sustainability and our so-called circular way with you today. But most of all, I'm glad to get in contact with so many interested people. So thanks to you all for joining the session today. Before we start, I would like to give you a very brief overview about the Würth Group, together with some key facts, as Achim already said. I think most of you already heard from Würth or the Würth Group. Würth is a family-run business, and it all started in 1945 by Adolf Würth. His son, Reinhold Würth, took over the business from his father when he was 19 years old and developed it to a world market leader in assembly and fastening materials with more than 83,000 employees and also over 4 million customers worldwide. To get a better overview and understanding where we are located and where all these people are working, I would like to give you a short overview with the next slide, please. So, thank you, Achim. The Würth Group has more than 400 companies in over 80 countries, and we are divided in two units. The Würth line, as you can see on the left side, and the so-called allied companies on the other side. The Würth line operations focus on assembly and fastening materials, supplying customers in trades, the construction sector, and also the industry. And the allied companies are companies which operate as production businesses like screw production or the production of chemical products and so on. But also some kinds of other businesses like hotels, restaurants, and so on. And although we have more than 400 companies, more than 50% are the big players which generate the largest share of sales. And as you can see on this slide, last but not least, one important fact is more than 300 companies are located in Europe. So the development in this market is also very important for us. And you will find out in a few sentences why this is important to know. But let's go deeper into today's topic, our so-called circular way, our way towards a circular economy. The European, thank you, Achim. The European Union has launched the European Green Deal. Maybe someone of you already heard from it. And their plan is to make the entire company more sustainable. These requirements are, of course, important for us as well as for our customers. And I'm sure also in your company are the first questions from customers about sustainability, acting sustainable, or maybe whether we have sustainable products or something like that. If we summarize the points such as clean and reliable energy, sustainable transport, or leave no one behind, 3 essential points remains. So we have the topic of a circular economy, which means to design and manufacture products in a way that we can use the raw materials after usage again and produce new products out of this. Then we have the topic climate neutrality, like the use of renewable energies or more sustainable mobility, and the topic of social standards, where it's all about human rights within the supply chain. In the future, there will be a higher request from our customers and how we're gonna handle these topics. So our 3 fields of actions, as you can see on the next slides, thank you, are therefore also based on these 3 topics. First, the topic of climate neutrality, and I'm sure everyone supports the goal of being climate neutral and emit no more greenhouse gases. Second, creating material cycles to decouple growth from resources consumption. And third, the area of social standards, as just mentioned, to leave nobody behind and support human rights. These 3 pillars, also based on the goals of the European Union, are our 3 action fields towards a circular economy. And as you can see here, we translated this in our own circular way. And at this point, I would like to hand over to Rabea, and she will give you an insight in our concrete steps.
Thank you very much, Carina, for handing over, and a warm welcome from my side as well. As already said by Carina, we are really committed to the aims of the Green Deal and hence our own sustainability target. Of course, for doing so is crucial to get the support of the top management. I'm glad that we have Bettina Würth, who is the chairwoman of the Würth company, and our CEO, Robert Friedman, on our side, because they support us with all our action that we are doing. I recently just read a short management I recently read a study by a consulting firm saying that only 15% of the German board members actually believe in the concept of a sustainable value chain and are not doing it for marketing or public relation activities. So I'm really glad that at the Würth Group, we belong to this 15% and we have the commitment and support of our top management. As said by our CEO, climate neutral and sustainable companies, products, and supply chains will be the new standard. But how can we fulfill this mission? How can we fulfill our own circular way? And this can only be done if we take actions. And for this, on the next slide, I will show you what we are actually doing right now. As already said in the beginning, our sustainability strategy consists of 3 pillars. On the one hand, we have climate neutrality. On the other hand, we have material life cycles and social standards. All of these 3 pillars are interconnected. By implementing measures in each of the pillars, we work toward achieving our goal of a circular economy. If we just take a look on our first pillar, climate neutrality. For us, climate neutrality means that we want to avoid and offset all our green emissions in the long term, and we will take our partners along the supply chain with us. But if we want to achieve climate neutrality, of course, we need to know what we emit and what impact our actions have on the environment. If we want to achieve this kind of transparency, we need a comprehensive data collection and analysis process. In the last years, we started to collect all this kind of environmental related information, and we used it to quantify our corporate carbon footprint and for identifying our biggest CO2 drivers so that we can reduce the total amount of our emissions. Right now, we concentrate on projects like promoting electric vehicles, sourcing green energy, and identifying compensation projects for offsetting our unavoidable emissions. If we take a look on the right side, we can see our next pillar, social standards. Within the Würth Group, we recognize social justice and fairness as part of our corporate responsibility. Hence, the fulfillment of social standards such as no child labor, no forced labor, or non-discrimination take priority within our organization and along the supply chain. So at Würth, we are proud of that we developed our own code of conduct and supplier code of conduct, which contains guidelines and rules to ensure responsible conduct of our business partners. In the case of a misstep, we are not leaving our partners behind. No, we are looking how we can develop them to improve the overall social standards within the supply chain. So some of you might wonder because why we jump from climate neutrality and social standard and left material cycles alone. This is because our dear colleagues from the US will take a deeper look on it. But first of all, I want to give you a short introduction of what circular economy means for us and why closing material life cycles is such important. For that, let me present you 6 steps of how we want to do it. Of course, first of all, it's really important to know how your products and materials are made. So we need to pay attention as early as possible at the products to know what materials are used, how they can be separated, recycled, and reprocessed. Additionally, it is really important that we establish a reverse logistic process so that we can take back our materials that we left on the market and we do not lose control over these kind of material cycles. For this, digital infrastructure such as blockchain is really important because it allows us to achieve a transparency that we wouldn't have without it. So keeping in mind that our 3 pillars are interconnected and that sustainability is an holistic approach, we also need to consider that we have a climate neutral production and compliance with environmental and social standards if we really want to achieve a circular economy and want to close, our loops. So if you want to learn more about all our 3 pillars, how they're interconnected, and what we are also doing in the field of sustainability, I would recommend you to read our sustainability magazine, The Circular Way, which is available in German and English. You can just visit our Würth homepage, and then you can get access, or you can just use the QR code to get the information. So this was it from my side, and thank you very much for your attention. And I will hand over to my dear colleagues from the Würth Additive Group.
Thanks, Rabea. I'll take it from here. I appreciate you and Carina giving the overview here from Germany on the sustainability strategy and the strategic pillars. I'll leave the QR code up here for another minute as I am sure a couple of people have pulled up their phones and are scanning it right now. You should see your tracker go crazy now, Carina, for new people downloading the magazine. All right, then I will move ahead. You see it already, I bet. You see it already, yeah. So great. Again, thanks, Rabea. We'll jump over to the across the pond to the USA. We'll talk a little bit about the Würth industry in North America and our sustainability initiatives and how we essentially enact and execute the strategic goals that we just learned about. And then furthermore, how we're leveraging technology in the US today, such as Rabea already mentioned, including 3D printing to get even better at that, right? For those who are not aware, the Würth industry sector supports large corporate accounts, large corporate customers with C parts and inventory management solutions. That means that for us, on our customers' production lines depends on our supply, right? So if you think about large companies making cars or making tractors, they get Würth parts, and they rely that we are able to keep their supply at an appropriate level and to be as good as possible so that they have all the things they need to build whatever they're building around the world. And the only way to keep the service levels as high as they are with Würth, that means that product supply is correct and on time. A lot of that is around a very rigorous process and quality management system, a laser focus on efficiency and automation. And if you can imagine, also a high supply chain resilience, as we see nowadays, that maybe you need more than just one supplier for the same article to make sure that you can always deliver in time and in the quantity that it's required. So because Würth industry is delivering literally to the assembly line of our customers, we take control and ownership of the supply chain all the way into the hands of the assembly line worker. And that means that Würth captures that control and also captures that value later on with that supply chain by consolidating the flow of goods of many of those supply chains, generating data-driven efficiencies. And by that way, of course, we are cutting down inherently. That's how we make money. We're cutting down on those redundant product flows to make the entire supply side more efficient. And if you now scale that thought up to multiple billions of dollars in goods that are supplied this way, we are already working with our core business and are taking a lot of unnecessary trucks and traffic off the street by consolidating that physical flow of goods. On-site of our, in the case of our on-site industrial vending solutions, customers that use those vending solutions, so these automated product machines here, they carry safety equipments like gloves or glasses or anything you need to run your factory. And those, on average, reduce product consumptions by up to 35% when they are implemented on the floor. And that means that more than 3 out of 10 pair of gloves are never actually, consumed or cut down on consumption here, because it's just much more efficient and on-site just when you need it, as opposed to you have to buy, 100 pack all the time, and have to buy more gloves than you actually need. Generally, when we look at reducing space with the Kanban racking, we are also proud of that number, of that KPI. By using Würth automated Kanban racking systems, we reduce shelf space up to 40% for customers. That, of course, helps slowing down the growth of your required operational square footage, right? If you are very efficient on your on your parts that you store on your site, then you need to you have the ability to grow less drastically in terms of space when you increase your production capacities. And then, as Rabea just already mentioned, we have a rigorous supplier quality audits in place to make sure that our suppliers globally comply with our code of conduct, as well as with the compliance rules of the local authorities. As you maybe already saw or noticed here, I left out our additive manufacturing solutions in here. I will just give you a little teaser. When just reading news about the technology nowadays, we can see headlines such as the XPOs, one of the world's largest logistics provider, CEO predicts the biggest transportation disruptor to be additive manufacturing or 3D printing. And so, of course, Würth being a supply chain company, we have smart people in our group that had the idea, hey, how can Würth potentially leverage this technology, to become better and bring that value of the technology even at the same quality level to our customer floors. Now, while all these factors help just from our core business in terms of already, cutting down capacity and reducing consumptions and taking some trucks off the street, it's not enough for us to contribute to the 1.5 degree goal of the Paris Climate Agreement. So, as we've heard before, we've committed to a much more rigorous process towards achieving carbon neutrality and circularity. And I want to spend the next couple of minutes just talking about how do we actually enact that change within our organization. And we draw here from a basic process from a pretty good book that we shared amongst our team here when we formed our task forces. I can highly recommend the Circular Economy Handbook if you want to look that up online. That gives a pretty good framework on how to implement change. And we took kind of that framework and, of course, we adjusted a little bit for our team here. And I'm going to spend just a minute on kind of going over this because I want to hand over to Carter and give him some time to talk about his topic too. But essentially, what we're doing is we form internal task forces that take on the 3 strategic pillars that Rabea just explained. So the net carbon zero, circular materials, and social standards. And we organize task forces into business process close groups. So we talk about topics from those 3 pillars that apply to business operations, to business culture, to products, or to the ecosystem in which you operate. It's very important that you pull those resources in the task forces from the existing staff that you have. It doesn't help to hire just 5 consultants and that bring up good ideas and then they're then be done with it. We need to be thinking of smart concepts and then actually executing them. Otherwise, we would be, as Professor Würth always says, we would be knowledge giants, but realization dwarfs, right? And that is something that does not fly with the Würth Group. You have to execute your projects. So what we launched as the Würth Industry Group is a sustainability and circular economy as one of the many strategic development goals of the company. That kicked off with an international interdisciplinary team of passionate individuals, and that breaks down into regions, and then those regional teams, they work and organize into those 4 task force groups: operations, culture, products, ecosystems. They develop ideas and projects. Because all of the task force members are already part of the everyday business, they immediately implement and take information from the core business, bring it back to the task force, bring ideas from the task force, test them out immediately in our core business, and that way you have a pretty good flow of information and a pretty streamlined way of testing out ideas very, very early on in the idea phase. And if it's just talking about it with colleagues at lunch break, and then collect some more ideas and recruit some more individuals who want to contribute to our sustainability task forces. So projects that we work on, for example, we are looking at centralizing and building a more data-driven waste management system. That in turn helps, automated collecting data from waste management vendors and feeding that data flow into what Rabea and Carina just talked about, into our corporate reporting requirements, right? We need to measure that we're getting better at our goals, and we are closer to achieving our goals. Other projects include things such as working on a North America-wide public sustainability rating. Of course, that is a complex project, needs help from all the different companies that we work with, and so of course it helps that the task force is built with people from the actual business. Oftentimes, technology aids us. in those projects. So Rabea already mentioned technologies like artificial intelligence, make our supply chains more efficient, or technologies like blockchain help with transparency and tracking of material flows. And in the case of 3D printing, we look at this technology as a holistic way that will benefit the world as a whole, we believe, and also benefits our business and the business of our customers, including on the topic of a more sustainable economy. And so with that, I will hand it over to Carter to go over some more details on why we believe this technology is going to be a very big value add for us and our customers in the future.
Thanks, Achim. So, yep, like Achim mentioned at the beginning, my name is Carter Rhodes. I'm with the Würth Additive Group based in Denver, Colorado, and we're going to look at a little bit more deep dive focus on how 3D printing supports the sustainability goals of Würth. So, over the past several years, we have seen some larger global trends that are pushing us more towards additive manufacturing. It just happens that additive manufacturing can help out with a lot of the things that we're seeing. And so some of those would be global warming has been increasing over time. And so more and more companies are focusing on sustainability. And a lot of companies are focusing more on localizing point of manufacture, because we also are seeing more increased trade restrictions from country to country. Along with that, having redundancy, so maybe even if we're not manufacturing all of these parts locally, maybe we can replace some of these parts with 3D printed parts. Having redundancy is also helpful there. And then finally, looking at things like the pandemic, or even tied back into global warming, we see more and more extreme weather events around the globe. Having disaster recovery, having the ability to manufacture aid relief closer to the point of these disasters is also extremely helpful. So we'll kind of, again, dive into how this really works, but on a broad picture type of scale, these are some of the things we're seeing and some of the solutions that 3D printing is provided. And so before we look at the specific example, we usually like to remind everyone that 3D printing is not for everything. So as we're talking about this, you're not saying, why don't we just 3D print all of our parts on site? And that is because 3D printing fits specific types of parts really well. And so as you can see on the bottom here, we can print most things, but it doesn't mean it's a good fit for everything. So most things that are really large quantity, really most of the SKUs that we would provide to customers, it's going to be better to provide them in a traditional way. It can just be manufactured for far less, and it's a better solution. But the SKUs that we provide less of, that are more specialized, sometimes higher cost, those are usually where we find really good fits for 3D printing. And so by printing some of those things, we're able to reduce the cost of transportation and then therefore reduce CO2 through that. And so to look, to give you a very good overview of some of the main ways that 3D printing can help here is, in a traditional sense, you have, if you can see in this first little graphic, this little globe on the top that says 20th century mass manufacturing. Traditionally, you'll have one factory that has different raw materials, different parts, even parts for machinery that's running in that manufacturer, all shipped in from different points, different places around the globe. And so all these parts come together, they're producing their product, and that's going to the point of use. 3D printing, like I mentioned earlier, can drastically reduce the amount of CO2 emissions, because instead of having materials or parts from 10 different locations we could have materials sent from just one location, and then it's brought on site, and on site you can print either parts that are going on whatever that end product is going to be. You can be printing parts that are replacements for machines to keep machines up and running. Really, anything you might need, you can produce on site. So it's reducing it from many different locations to one. It just goes down to one location to point of manufacture. And so a very specific example of this is we have a customer up in Canada who was having different parts shipped from around the globe. You can actually see in this top graphic, this is actually representative of where they were sourcing all of these different parts, where we were sourcing them for them. And we were able to use additive manufacturing to reduce the total number of SKUs to account for 220 SKUs, switching from sourcing those parts to producing those via 3D printing. And so this, obviously, for the customer, it saved them a lot of money and us, which is great for the business side of things. It also makes our supply chain more resilient, like we talked about earlier. So instead of having to source from all of these different vendors all over the globe, we have 6 orders instead of 136. So it's less chance for several of these things to go wrong or go missing, or something happens from point A to point B. Makes it a lot more robust. And most importantly, we could say, is that it really increases the sustainability. So like I talked about, we are reducing the CO2 from all of the different transportation costs, but we're also reducing space in the warehouse because we can digitize our inventory. So we can have all of these different huge library of parts stored digitally, and as they're needed, they can be printed on the spot. And in addition to this, I just want to make a note that with just one machine, one 3D printer, we are able to print and are printing about 860,000 parts per year. So again, it's just taking something that's really complex and simplifying the system, making it more efficient, making it more sustainable. These were provided to us, all these statistics, by Indeed. Here you can see their logo and the sustainability. And I'll go next. And then one more example of how 3D printing is playing into the sustainability efforts is by recycling waste material. And so this is a project we have going on with several different customers right now, where we have a manufacturer who is producing waste material. We are then picking up that waste material on trucks that are already going to the site to deliver parts to these manufacturers. We bring that material back, get it to a filament manufacturer, and filament is the material that goes into 3D printers. They use that waste material to incorporate into new material for the 3D printer. We deliver that material back to the manufacturer, and then they can use that to print parts, as we had explained in the prior slide. So doing some recycling and reusing there.
Thanks, Carter. And I think with that, we are already at the end of our presentation. We took 10 minutes more than anticipated, probably also because we took a little longer to set up. So appreciate your patience here. Right now, I have the chat window open. People are still a little bit shy. That's okay. We added here some contact information in case you can think of any questions after this call, but maybe I'll take another minute here. And Carina, potentially you want to say some summarizing words here for the audience?
Sure, why not? Hopefully you had an interesting insight in our focus on a circular economy, but I'm pretty sure there are many questions in your head, so please feel free, ask whatever you think or mean, or if there's any feedback, how could it work? Does it work? Is there any question in your head? Please feel free and ask. I would
Again,
love to have a discussion.
Exactly.
Sorry.
We're here for your questions. Again, as mentioned in the beginning, we also take compliments.
Or maybe all of them are reading Our Circular Way, so I can understand. It's a very interesting magazine, so it's the
should
best.
Have put the QR code at the end there. I agree.
So please also feel free, just ask now.
I have some questions here in the question panel. Our first question is from Chris. Chris is wondering, how is the pilot Carter just described, how's that been going since its initiation?
Yeah, I can share on that one. So what we are working on with one account is, and thank you, Mary, I didn't realize there was another question panel here. It's going really well. We have, it's actually two projects right now. One is actually working with, it seems like almost 100% recycled materials. The other one, we are currently still testing the printability. We are at, Carter, correct me if I'm wrong, 60 to 70% of recycled material right now. And we're of course trying to increase that number. The challenge that we have right now is to work on a scalable business model behind it. So we are setting up that project team that now that the concept works, we want to understand how is that flow of material and how is that flow of goods going back and forth from that customer going to affect, the carbon footprint of the material that we want to make with that process, right? Because of course, the last thing we want to do is want to introduce more emissions by starting this project. But luckily, one of that projects will be in Germany, and as we may know from our people who are reading out the Circular Way, the electric vehicle project is going really fast, Carina. So just on the transportation side, I think we will be able to cut some more of that potential impact there. So thank you very much, Mary, for getting me acquainted here with the questionnaires. Just have one more question. One more person who wants to see the QR code. So here you go. I will do that. Then I have one asker saying, "Great job, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. This is what I talk about, taking compliments. Great presentation." Then we have here, what are concrete targets on reducing CO2 emissions? Reducing, not offsetting. Maybe that's a question for you, Carina.
Maybe you are reducing already too. So we have at the Würth Group two main issues or points that we are working on to reduce. So our carbon footprint says that we have a large impact on our electromobility. So we are working to change our entire fleet into a more sustainable way and a more CO2 efficient way. This is one of the first main points, and also to change the CO2 emissions is to become also climate neutral, is to get more into the green electricity. So we started to change the electricity into green one. And to reduce, we also have the management systems, which helps us to understand where we have the most needed or the most impact to reduce or to find some, do you also say leakage? I don't know the English word, I'm sorry.
Leakage. Mm-hmm.
Leakage, thank you. And then we have maybe we can switch to this slide from Rabea, and then we can see the steps We have the same in the circular way, so you can see the 6 steps here. We have also our 7 steps to become climate neutral in scope 1 and 2 in the magazine. But if you go to the 3 pillars, again, the slides before, we can see there, no problem at all, that we have here the main issues or the main points for becoming climate neutral as the whole group. But it's important to understand that there are many different companies, and altogether we have to go this way. And every company has his own carbon footprint, and the Würth line has the fleet issue as a main point. The producing companies has more the point of green energy. So every company has to start his own way, but you can see on our Circular Way magazine the different insights into the different companies. And maybe the Würth Additive Group, I don't know yet, is working to become climate neutral as well. But maybe, Achim, you can say a few words to this also.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are part of the Würth industry of North America, so we are taking the same goals as you have for the group. So I have one more question actually that is going into that from Mr. Wegemann from Siemens Healthineers. They are a customer of ours, of Würth, and they also committed to the SBTI initiative and the Paris Agreement, committing to reduce all emissions, including those of our supply chain, making up to 70% of their emissions. And he was asking, because we are part of their supply chain, how much can they expect us to reduce our emissions by the end of the century? And I think maybe, Carina, we can mention the initiatives of the headquarters in Germany and maybe what's planned for the remainder of the 20 years.
Thank you for this question. Also, the most important thing here is to go together with your suppliers. So we have many e-learnings, or we start with e-learnings, and we try to give them an understanding of our way, our circular way, and to work with them together to become climate neutral, maybe in the production from the products, and also to become a better understanding for the CO2 footprint of the products. So it's not just only our way, it's more a way together. So we have to get in touch with the suppliers, to get in touch with the people who are working there, and to get a common understanding of our steps towards a climate neutral circular economy. So is this the right answer? Was this the question? Did I get a point?
I think so. Otherwise, I'm sure I'm just chatting with Mr. Wegemann here. I'm sure he will let me know if he needs more information. Or please feel free to go through here. I have another one for you, Carina. Sorry, you're very popular.
An interesting point is to get into touch with you, Achim. At this point, the 3D print is a good point to have a reduction in the transport and to become climate neutral product in your own company.
I appreciate that, Carina. That's a very good pass here to me to set up for the Elfmeter, as we say in Germany, the penalty kick. So of course, Mr. Wegemann, if you please reach out to Mr. Rhodes or myself. That sample project that we shared, cutting carbon footprint of parts with distributed manufacturing and additive, where you can digitize a big part of the supply chain of certain components. We're very happy to share in more detail there what we've been working on, and potentially help identify some applications in your business that can help you cut down that footprint. And then I have another one here that's also for you, Carina, and I hope our bosses here in Künzelsau are listening. Do you see the sustainability and circular economy expand into a function or as a larger team globally within Würth? And should that be staffed broadly across all companies from a central perspective, or what is your approach on the organization of this rollout? as you can, whatever you can share at this moment. I know it's moving fast.
So at the moment we are working with, we are together 5 people, and we are having a plan to achieve 10 people at the end of the year. So if you're interested in working with us on a sustainable way or circular way, please contact me. I'm looking for some people who would assist us and join us on our journey. But first of all, it's not only us, it's to work together with all employees around the world. So my dream is that 83,000 people work in a sustainable team, and there is no sustainability management in future for me. So it's a long way, but it's a hard way, but it's a way who is worth it. So it's not only that sustainability management is working on these issues. We are working together. We are helping to understanding the new ways of working. We are helping to understanding how to become climate neutral, how to manage the new KPIs, how to design products to become or to work towards a circular economy, to develop cradle-to-cradle circular products or other packagings, and to take all the employees and suppliers and customers towards our journey with us, because I only can say it's not only a work for 4, 5, 10, 40 people. We all have to work on this issue together and think about sustainable ways like we did it in the linear way also.
Absolutely. And I like that because it dials into the next question here of Mr. Hartmann. How do you and we ensure the topic's not only driven by grassroots Friday for Future type engagement, but also, by senior leadership and CEOs, because it's a very true point he's making. He's saying we know the problems already for 50 years, and now that it's almost getting too late, finally there's grassroots movement here, but we need to, own the change from the top, Carina. So I know personally, I know that you are very much involved with top leadership on this. They probably all have your phone number already dialed in, hopefully not to spam because you call them so much and pushing for change. But maybe you can share a little bit how you managed to convince senior leadership to, support your vision on this.
Oh, that's a really difficult question. But I can say the words Rabea mentioned before from Bettina Würth and Robert Friedman are absolutely true, and they support this, and they are absolutely committed to our sustainability strategy. And we started in 2015 with our first cradle-to-cradle product, Varifix. Maybe some of you heard of it. And this was the start of our journey, because we saw that it is possible to achieve a circular economy in our real company life. No, we had to discuss which information do we need, which data do we need, and there was a theoretical part, and we turned it into a practical one, and this was the first project. And at the end, we saw that it could work, and now we are moving forward to become, with the whole group, circular. And it's not only because we had a dream or we like to go this journey because everyone does. No, it's really because we had many projects, many know-how till today, and we truly believe that it could work, and this is why we hardly work on it today. And hopefully many of you join our journey, because we alone, also as the whole Würth Group, are too small to transform into a circular economy. So we need every one of you, our suppliers, our customers, our employees. All together we can achieve the circular economy.
And a good example for that is actually the project that we talked about in the material cycles here, recycling waste for 3D printing. When I talked about this with Carina, she had the idea, hey, we're looking at the same type of waste that this customer is producing for a different application as well, not just for 3D printing. So that goes into, it is very, very rarely is it one person with a good idea and then everybody executes them. A lot of the times it's a lot of people come together that are passionate about the topic. And then the most work is just to organize those passionate people and their ideas into a project pipeline and focus on really driving execution. So you have results to show, and the good results, of course, trigger new ideas and get you more buy-in. And I just want to add to Carina's kind of words on management is we are lucky to work for Würth that has always been about more than just a profit, but has always interpreted itself as an active community member in the area, the headquarters area, but in any community that we are, we focus on making a positive impact. And so pivoting our organization towards the circular economy was not even that much convincing required, because it's already part of the kind of the value that we see as an organization, not just on the business side, but on a broader scope, right? And so with that, I have one more question here from Mr. Brooks Budelis. I mentioned Kanban. Can I talk a little bit more about how that pertains to sustainability? I think I stumbled a little bit over my own words there earlier, but essentially the short answer is we organize a lot of customers' small parts into neat shelves. And we have so much experience in that we usually cut down up to 40% of required rack space. So what that means is you can store, the parts that you want to store or need to store physically. So our typical parts like fasteners and screws, we organize them very, very well. So you need less space to run your business, right? And that means by having a more efficient supply, you also need to expand into less space, or you need to, expand slower as we grow as population and businesses, right? Require more space, especially in Europe, of course. In the US, you have a little bit more space, but also that is limited at some point. It's about, holistically looking at how can we reduce the impact of our organization on the planet. And that is a puzzle piece to that by reducing the space required to organize your parts.
And there are also some informations in the magazine about the Kanban system and the CO2 impact. So thank you very much, please find in there some examples and best practices also to this point.
Thank you very much. I have one more critical question here. How is Würth addressing other air pollutants outside of CO2? Are you taking any additional measures to avoid a carbon tunnel vision?
So also for me, you are quiet.
Yeah, that's also for you. I'm sorry.
So hopefully I get your question right. We have the two CO2 emissions, but we are working with the greenhouse gas protocol. So we also had the other emissions in our calculation, and we are working towards a climate neutrality by the GHG protocol, greenhouse gases protocol. So not only the CO2 emissions, if this was the question.
Yeah, that was the question.
Got it right. Yeah, perfect.
And then last one, maybe also on a broader perspective, questions from a colleague internally. Do you believe that we are ahead of the pack relative to our competition on this topic? Chris, if you listened to me earlier, I said luckily there is no competition in sustainability. We all win together. But nevertheless, right, how do we And I mentioned that Würth was nominated as part of the Vision for 2045 and as part of the UN Climate Summit. So of course there's some progress on this that might be further along as other companies in our space. But how do you think, Carina, we are performing on this topic compared to other players in the market?
It's a really good question. I think there are many good companies working hard on this topic, and as you already said, we all have to win this game. And it's not to become a leader in sustainability; it's to become a leader in sustainable management. That's the main issue: to become altogether a sustainable and circular management in all companies. It doesn't make sense for me personally to become a sustainable leader as my own.
Yeah, no, I think that's those are very good closing remarks. So we appreciate everybody who joined us and who listened to us. Unfortunately, you had to only look at Carter and myself. We had some issues with the webcams here for Carina and Rabea. And I appreciate all the insightful questions. Thank you very much for participating and challenging us with your ideas and questions. And with that, I will say appreciate your time. Enjoy your afternoon or your morning, depending on where you are in the world. And join us along for the next one. Thank you.